Hey there, Bible nerds. Welcome back to Chapters and Chuckles by Kaye, where we dive into the Bible chapter by chapter. So have you ever messed up so bad you thought that it's, that's it. I ruined it. And then somehow grace showed up anyway. Today we are diving into Deuteronomy Chapter 10. So grab your drink, get cozy, and let's dive in. I'd forgotten to grab my drinks. I have no drinks at all. Well, yeah, I don't have drinks. I don't even have my nightstand drink over there. Anyways, so like all the past 9 episodes, it's the same thing. We are standing with Israel on the edge of the promised land. 40 years in the wilderness, sand in their sandals, generational trauma in their memory, and Moses he's now 120 years old. He's preaching like a man who knows his time is short. He is retelling the story, not because God forgot, but because people do. So chapter 10 opens with something beautiful and humbling. The golden calf incident already happened. That disaster is in their history. Exodus 32 level catastrophe. Israel literally broke covenant before the stone tablets were even fully settled in Moses' hands. Well, he smashed it. A visual of a shattered relationship. And here in Deuteronomy 10, Moses says, "At that time the Lord said to me, cut 2 tablets of stone like the former ones, and come up to me on the mountain and make an ark of wood." So pause right there. God did not say we're done. He said, bring new tablets. So that is restoration language. Moses obeys. He cuts 2 new tablets like the first ones and goes back up to Mount Sinai, the mountain that once thundered with fire and smoke and trembling, now becomes the place of renewal. The Lord writes again the 10 words, the commandments spoken from the fire. Same covenant, same standard, same holy God. But this time the tablets go into the ark. The ark, not just the box. This wooden chest, later overlaid with gold, becomes the sacred container of covenant. It is the symbol of God's presence. The commandments that Israel broke are now held inside mercy. The second set of tablets shows that covenant failure does not automatically cancel covenant relationship. God's grace precedes Israel's faithfulness. That should humble all of us. Moses continues recounting the journey. They moved from Beroth Bene Hakan to Mosera. Aaron died there. Eleazar, his son, became priest in his place. Leadership transitions happened in the wilderness. Life continued, even in discipline. God sustained order and structure. Then Moses reminds them that the tribe of Levi was set apart. At that time, the Lord set apart the tribe of Levi to carry the ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord to minister to him and to bless in his name. So notice that phrase, to stand before the Lord, not just to perform rituals, not just to carry furniture. They were set apart to minister in the presence of God. The Levites did not receive a territorial inheritance like the other tribes. Therefore, Levi has no allotment or inheritance with his kindred. The Lord is his inheritance. So let that sit. Their inheritance was not land, it was God himself. So sometimes what looks like a loss materially is actually a deeper spiritual privilege. The Levites' portion was the Lord. That reframes what we think success is. Moses also reminds them that he stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights again. And this line hits hard. The Lord listened to me that time also. The Lord was unwilling to destroy you. unwilling, not unable. Unwilling, because God is able to do everything. Israel deserved judgment. God chose mercy because God is a merciful God. Not because they were impressive, not because they promised to behave, but because of his covenant faithfulness. So, God's grace is not sentimental, it's covenantal. It flows from his character, not from our consistency. Now, verse 12 shifts tone. Moses moves from history to heart. So now, O Israel, what does the Lord your God require of you? That question is everything. After grace, after restoration, after second chances, what does God require? So Moses answered, to fear the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and to keep the commandments of the Lord your God and his decrees. So that's what Moses says. So fear, walk, love, serve, keep. That is not cold religion, it is relational obedience. And obedience has been a word that I've been seeing a lot lately in my readings. I need to be obedient. Obedient. So, anyways, fear here means reverent awe, not panic. Walk means lifestyle, not occasional behavior. Love means loyalty and affection. Serve means devotion in action. This is covenant relationship language. Then Moses zooms out to theology. Although heaven and the heaven of heavens belong to the Lord your God, the earth with all that is in it, yet the Lord set heart in love on your ancestors alone. The God who owns the universe chose Israel. He did not need them, he wanted them. And here is where humility should rise in us. If God's choice is rooted in his love, not our merit, then pride makes zero sense. Because yeah. So verse 16 gets surgical. Like, circumcise then the foreskin of your heart and do not be stubborn any longer. So that is not subtle. Physical circumcision was a sign of covenant identity, but Moses says external signs are not enough. The heart must be cut free from hardness. Circumcision of the heart means removing stubbornness, removing resistance, removing the layers that block surrender. You can have religious signs and still have a resistant heart. This anticipates what the prophets will later emphasize, and even what Paul will explain in Romans. True covenant identity is internal. Moses continues describing God's character. For the Lord your God is God of gods and the Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who is not partial and takes no bribe. That is courtroom language. God cannot be manipulated. No favoritism, no corruption. He defends the orphan and the widow. He loves the stranger, providing them food and clothing. Notice that. The mighty and awesome God cares about the vulnerable. He is transcendent and compassionate. Israel is then commanded, you shall also love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. This is memory-based ethics. Remember where you came from. Let your past vulnerability shape your present compassion. If you have ever been the outsider, you know the ache. God says, do not forget that feeling when you gain stability. Moses then circles back. You shall fear the Lord your God. Him alone you shall worship. To him you shall hold fast. Hold fast. That phrase means cling, like your life depends on it, because spiritually it does. He reminds them of the miracle in Egypt, the signs and wonders, the multiplication from 70% going down to Egypt to being as numerous as the stars, from 70 to a nation, from slavery to covenant, from broken tablets to restored relationships. So this chapter is not flashy. There are no dramatic plagues or parted seas in this chapter, but it is deeply theological and deeply pastoral. It shows us a pattern: failure, intercession, restoration, expectation, heart transformation, compassion. God renews covenant, then calls for inner obedience. Now let's talk real life for a second. So we love external checklists. Go to church, read the Bible, post a verse, pray before meals, all good things, necessary things. But Moses would lean forward and say, what about your heart? Is it soft? Is it stubborn? Is it clinging to the Lord or clinging to control? Circumcision of the heart is uncomfortable language because it implies cutting away pride and self-reliance. And I know humans are full of pride. Nobody signs up for that, for all of that voluntarily. But here is the beauty. The same God who rewrote the tablet is the God who reshapes hearts. And notice something else. Obedience is framed as for your own well-being. Moses literally says keeping the commandments is for your own good. God requires us, God's requirements are not cosmic ego boost. They are protective boundaries, like parents saying, do not touch the stove. Israel is about to enter a land flowing with milk and honey. Prosperity is coming, and prosperity can make people forget. That's a big fact. So Moses is grounding them in theology before they step into abundance. Because if you enter blessing without remembering grace, pride grows fast. This chapter whispers, remember who you were. Remember what God did. Remember what he requires, and let your heart match your heritage. It is wild how relevant this is even now. So we live in a culture obsessed with performance and image. But God is still asking for heart allegiance. He still cares about the orphan and widow. He still refuses bribes. He still causes people to reflect his character. And here's something deeply comforting. If you have shattered tablets in your life, moments where you drop the covenant ball spectacularly, this chapter says God can write again. So he does not lower the standard, he restores the relationship. That is grace with backbone. Moses, near the end of his life, is not just giving laws, he is shepherding hearts. He knows they will forget, so he repeats. He recenters, he redefines success as loving God fully. This chapter also quietly sets up something huge. The idea of heart transformation points forward to the promise of Deuteronomy Chapter 30, where God himself will circumcise their hearts. The law exposes the need. God supplies the change. Israel's story is not just ancient history, it's a mirror. How often do we cling to external signs and neglect internal surrender? How often do we enjoy God's blessings but forget we were once strangers? How often do we assume God chose us because we were impressive? Deuteronomy chapter 10 dismantles that pride gently but firmly. Heaven and the heaven of heavens belong to him. He does not need us, he loves us. That is humbling and freeing at the same time. Now, as we prepare to step into Canaan, Moses is making sure they understand. Covenant is not about land first, it is about relationship First, land is the setting, God is the center. If they lose the land but keep God, they still have hope. If they gain the land but lose God, everything collapses. And spoiler alert for the rest of the Old Testament, that warning was not hypothetical, but in this moment, standing on the edge of promise, Deuteronomy 10 is a call to inner renewal before outer success. It is it is almost like Moses is saying, do not just cross the Jordan, cross over in your heart, and that lands heavy in the best way. Before new seasons, before promotions, before blessings, before answered prayers, there's always the deeper question, right? What does the Lord require? Not perfection, not performance theater, a heart that fears, walks, loves, serves, and keeps. And when that heart fails, it will. The God the God who rewrites tablets still listens to intercession. That is the God of Deuteronomy Chapter 10. Mighty and awesome. Not partial. Defender of the vulnerable. Restorer of covenant. Caller of hearts. So where in your life have you relied on outward signs of faith while your heart remained resistant? This chapter challenges us to examine whether we are clinging to God Himself or just clinging to religious routine. It invites us to let God cut away stubbornness and replace it with surrender. It reminds us that obedience is for our good, not God's ego. And it calls us to reflect God's compassion toward the vulnerable because we too were once spiritually helpless. Okay, fun fact corner. The phrase God of gods and Lord of lords is one of the earliest declaration of absolute monotheism supremacy in scripture. In a world filled with regional deities and competing gods, this was a bold theological statement. Israel's God was not among many. He was above all, second to none. Like that declaration later echoes in the New Testament in Revelation, tying the covenant God of Moses to the ultimate reign of Christ. Scripture is layered like that, nothing accidental. So, next chapter, Moses keeps building, and let me tell you, he is about to tie love and obedience together in a way that is going to hit deep. The wilderness sermons are not done yet. All right. So that is pretty much it. Thank you for listening to Chapters and Chuckles by Kaye. If you've enjoyed this episode, please follow and subscribe. You can catch new episodes on YouTube, Spotify, podcasts, Apple Podcasts. And until next time, stay curious and stay blessed.